today with another video, how emotionally mature women protect their peace. I'm going to wait for a few people to get on this live stream and then we're going to get started. I think yesterday's live was super good. I loved our conversation and I want to keep the vibes going. If you missed yesterday's live, we were talking about 5 signs that your past relationship changed you and what to do about it, because there's always something that you can do to move forward, even if you've experienced something that's stressful. That's life, right? Let me get this live stream link up on my blog and then we're going to get started. One sec. I think this is a pretty good topic, so I'm excited today. I want to make sure that I'm live on my YouTube channel too, so hold on. Perfect. Okay. I got it right here. Let me share it. Cool. All right. We're going to get started. My name is Renee. For those of you that are new here, I'm an artist and a life and health coach, and I talk about wellness topics and personal development all here on my channel. So if you enjoyed today's video, leave me a like, share it with somebody who might need to hear what we're talking about today. I really appreciate it. It will help my channel grow, and you guys can join in on future conversations too. So let's get started. I feel like sometimes topics like these don't get as much attention because there is this thing of people resisting the call to maturity. And with more maturity comes more responsibility. There comes a lot of growth, and it's not something that you should avoid. You should never avoid or ignore any call on your life to mature and to do better or to desire better for yourself. And I think developing a sense of emotional maturity is a way that you can foster more peace in your life. Hey, thanks for joining today's live stream. We're talking about how emotionally mature women protect their peace. And the reason that, thanks for the likes on YouTube, leave me a like on TikTok if you enjoyed today's topic. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this today is because I think that it's really common for people to enjoy drama. And I feel like that's natural when it comes to like entertainment. Like we all enjoy our shows and our movies, they have drama within them. But I've noticed that even in real life, there are certain kinds of personalities that are drawn to drama or try to create a type of drama when there really isn't anything there. In a way, I feel sometimes they do it to make their life more entertaining or just to have something to pay attention to or something to like liven up the atmosphere because maybe they're experiencing boredom or they're just not happy. And I'm like, it's a better mindset to get yourself to the place where your baseline is peace and you're free from chaos and you're not constantly chasing a sense of chaos to feel entertained or to feel alive. Like we don't want to get our energy from these kinds of dynamics. Thanks for joining this live on TikTok. We're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube today. Today's topic is how emotionally mature women protect their peace. We're going to talk about emotional maturity. If you're into personal development, this video is for you. And I started off this video by talking about why I feel like topics like this don't get that much attention sometimes. And I think it's because people sometimes resist the call to mature. And maybe it's because they're scared of what the future might hold if they decide on making different choices in their life, or they're scared of what a different phase of their life might bring. They're resisting that call to maturity. They're resisting the need to change something that's going to cause them to grow, because what happens when you grow? Life changes, circumstances change, people change. Okay? Thanks for joining this live stream. Okay. I think that a lot of people I was going to say women, but I think a lot of people confuse emotional maturity with becoming emotionally numb. And being numb is not the same thing as being emotionally mature, as feeling a sense of peace within yourself. Because if you are completely shut off and not allowing anything in, if you are experiencing life in that way, where your automatic reaction when you're experiencing stress or an unwanted circumstance is to shut down, you might be doing that as a way to protect yourself, right? It's a form of self-preservation. But while you're also shutting yourself off from negative experiences, from potential danger or potential whatever it is that you might be fearing, you are also at the same time closing yourself off to positive experiences, to joy, to happiness, to new things. So while shutting down might feel like it's working in the short term to help you feel a sense of control and stability, in the long term, it's something that's going to take away from the quality of your life, because you're also closing yourself off to positive experiences, closing yourself off to joy, happiness, laughter, because you are shut down. Okay, I hope this video, I'm sorry that you're going through that. If you're going through a breakup, you should check out my last video. I titled it 5 Signs that you haven't gotten over your past relationship and what to do about it, or something like that. That one was specifically about toxic relationships. We've all been there. That was yesterday's conversation. But today we're going to talk about how to protect your peace. And if you don't have peace, maybe how to develop it in the first place. Okay, so leave me a like if you're enjoying this video. This channel is all about wellness and personal development. We're live on YouTube and TikTok. So if you're not subscribed to either one or following me on there, definitely go and check that out. Okay. So, protecting your peace is not about avoiding emotions. It's about learning not to let every external thing destabilize your inner world. And I feel like the way that this manifests with women is that we become hyper aware of people's moods, of people's energy shifts, of people's behaviors, especially after difficult relationships or environment. Let me know if you could hear me on YouTube. It paused for a second. Okay. Hello from Japan, Tokyo, and now I'm in an airport going to Russia. Good morning. Oh, that's so cool. Have a cool trip. Japan's on my list of countries I want to visit. How was Japan? I want to know. Did you go to 7-Eleven and try those snacks? The strawberry snack, the sandwich? Okay, so the way that this manifests with women, this sense of destabilization and not experiencing peace, is through being hyper aware of other people's behavior. And what we tend to do sometimes is look very, very closely at what other people are doing. We try to read their minds, see what they might be thinking, so that we can kind of go around them and decide what we're going to do based off of how they are acting. But if you think about it, if you're living that way, you're allowing somebody else and other things to control your mood, to control your behavior. And I want to at the end of this conversation help you get away from living in that mode, because I want you to feel that you have a sense of emotional control, okay? And part of that is developed by feeling safe on the inside, feeling safe in the person that you are, feeling independent emotionally. We need community, we need connection, but at the same time, your emotional state is a one-person job. That relies on you. You don't want to outsource your emotional state. When you have a chance, I just don't understand why women are easily influenced and easily turn their partner and making wrong decisions without remorse. How does this work? I don't know. I don't know much about that situation, but maybe she's getting bad advice. Sometimes people get bad advice and they act on impulse. So that could be it. Making wrong decisions without remorse. I'm not sure. You mean it was a quick decision and you don't know where it came from? But one thing I noticed, and this is kind of like, this is not everyone, but one thing I've noticed that is low-key, like, very trifling, that I started picking up on, is that there are people that will give you bad advice on purpose because they're basically trying to, like, push you down and trying to stop you or sabotage you. And sometimes they don't even realize that they're doing it. Her family influenced her. She has 4 sisters. Okay? It could be other people in her ear. Yeah. It sounds like that's what happened. I'm sorry that that happened. But let's bring it back to ourselves, what we can control, right? So, how do we enter this state of feeling peaceful within ourselves, becoming emotionally mature? Number 1, emotionally mature women don't internalize everything. I wish I learned this like 5 years ago, but not everyone's bad mood is about you. Like, I was in the habit, I don't know about you guys, but at one point I was in the habit of, like, almost micromanaging other people's moods, especially if they were in a bad mood and I wasn't. I would think that they were in a bad mood because of me. Not only would I think they were in a bad mood because of me, but I would literally go out of my way to try to put them into a better mood. And for one person, that's a big job. That's a lot of responsibility to put on yourself to make sure that everyone is happy around you. I had to learn throughout many experiences that not every mood shift is about me. Not every bad mood is about me. Not only that, but it's not my responsibility to take them out of it, because at the end of the day, you do not know what is going on inside of somebody else's mind, the ins and the outs of what it is that they are thinking at that moment, what they are perceiving, their internal state. So to take it upon yourself to try to bring them out of it, that's a job that's too big for you. And that's a really large way that we get our sense of internal peace taken away when we. Okay, I'm back. I don't know why my live stream starts breaking off, but I'm back. Let me know if you guys can hear me and see me. Okay, someone said, mommy issues are far more traumatic to children than daddy issues, according to scientific evidence. It seems like a lot of things tie back to our parents, but I started learning about that too, and it's really interesting. But you know what? I'm going to even take it a step further. Once you're an adult, you know how they say like decenter men and stuff? I think that once you're an adult, once you're of a certain age, you really do have to decenter your parents. And that doesn't mean that you don't love them. It doesn't mean that you don't care for them, that you don't honor them, but you cannot afford to continue putting the blame on them for everything that's going wrong in your life, especially if you have the privilege to learn about these things. Maybe they didn't know about, how parents shape their child's psychology and all of these things. We learn as we get older, and eventually you kind of have to do your own internal work and move on with your life and not stay so like connected to your parents. Like, after a certain point, you're an adult. And isn't it, look at how God designs everything. Eventually, so when you're little, your parents are raising you, right? But when they get older and they start, getting more into their elderly side, who's taking care of them? The kid, right? And it happens on a physical way, like we start to take care of our parents as they age, but also like emotionally we have to become independent from them too. And you know what? Sometimes not everyone's situation is the same, but sometimes our parents just didn't know. They didn't know any better. They did what they saw. And that doesn't mean it's okay, but are you going to live your life based off of the mistakes that they made? You have the ability to make different choices. You have the privilege to learn what was okay, what was not okay, what you're going to choose to repeat, not repeat, right? So, yeah. Number 1, how emotionally mature women protect their peace? By not internalizing everything, not internalizing other people's bad moods. Not every mood shift is about you. People are allowed to have stress. People are allowed to have bad days. People are allowed to have emotional fluctuations. And guess what? None of that has to do with you sometimes. I mean, maybe sometimes it does. Maybe sometimes it is you, but not every single time. And taking that on all of the time is super, super, super draining and is a highway to getting your internal sense of peace gone. Okay? Emotional maturity means resisting the urge to create a story around every little change, every little hint that something might be off. Okay? Peace comes from learning not to personalize everything you notice. And guess what? Little by little, the more that you do that, the more that you embody that in your own life, the more your life starts to feel like your own again and not like it's in the hands of somebody else. All right. If you guys are enjoying this live stream, make sure that you leave me a like on the screen on TikTok and on YouTube. All right. Came across her live a minute ago. Thanks for joining today's live. One sec. Okay, I'm live on TikTok, live on YouTube. Make sure that you're subscribed to both. All of my links are below. This is a women's wellness and health channel. All of our topics are about personal development. If I'm looking down, it's because my notes are here. I don't want to forget anything, especially on live when I get distracted sometimes from the comments and stuff. But I appreciate everybody that's joining in. All right. Peace comes from learning not to personalize everything you notice. You know, there's so much peace in sometimes just observing something and letting it just fly by you, not feeling the need to resolve it in that moment or try to like get into somebody else's mind and lift them up in their mood, especially if they're just not there. Like sometimes people are just not there. They don't have the capacity to feel good in that moment, or sometimes they're going through something in life that you know nothing about. They just don't have it in them. It's not your job to resolve all of that for them. You can only be a friend, and sometimes being a friend is just listening, right? Hey, thanks for joining today's live. We're talking about how emotionally mature women protect their peace. And we're on number 1. Emotionally mature women don't internalize everything. You can save yourself so much energy if you do not take every little shift from a person personal, okay? Because 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with you, okay? And the more energy that you're putting into creating some kind of story, some kind of narrative around why this person did this, did that, first of all, you'll never know 100% if it's true or not. You're just kind of spending your time in a make-believe state of mind when maybe that's not what's happening. Maybe they're just mad about something you have no idea about. Maybe they're mad about something that happened years ago. Guess what? It's not your fault and it's not your responsibility all of the time, okay? I helped her raise her daughter from baby to 7 years today, shut me out her life, choosing her family's side before success was achieved. Now I'm successful. Well, I'm happy that you're successful. And sometimes you have to let people do their own thing. You can't control them, you know, even if it's disappointing. That's not the first time or the last time somebody will disappoint, you know? So I'm sorry that happened. Let's talk about how we can reclaim a sense of peace, even though we're going to experience so much life stress, so many situations. We never really know what's going to happen. That's the beauty of life, and that's also the thing that can be really scary because things that you never expect can happen can happen. And stress is not something that we can avoid, but it's something we can learn to manage, right? Our internal state, so that it doesn't change the way that it doesn't change the person that we are and the way that we're experiencing life. Okay. Sometimes you get used to being so emotionally reactive because you're used to being disappointed or you're used to like bad things happening. That's how people can end up in a very cynical mindset. But the more that you can work on taking your emotions out of reacting to all of these things that are happening around you, because they're going to happen regardless if you are emotional or not, the better and probably the more peaceful you will feel. I don't know if you guys know about the concept of stoicism. A lot of people who are into philosophy really enjoy that. Stoicism, I don't know what's the definition exactly, but I know it has a lot to do with not being super emotional. So that's something that really helps people manage their stress too, is adopting that kind of mentality. Enjoying your stream. Thank you. Thanks for joining today. Leave me a like if you're enjoying this on YouTube, if you're enjoying this on TikTok. We're talking about how to protect your peace, especially from an angle of emotional maturity. Okay? We don't want to act unbothered only. We want to genuinely be unbothered. We want to genuinely be enjoying our life and not just acting or putting up a front. Like, we really want to feel that sense of like nobody can move me, unless I decide that they are invited inside of my world in that way. You don't want people to be pulling your strings in that way. And when you're really emotionally reactive and easily triggered, that's the mode that you're living on. Okay? Okay, thanks for saying that. Leave me a like if you guys are enjoying this, if you guys are following me. Okay? I feel like I want to take this channel a little bit to the next level with the personal development stuff and get away from these topics like how to be unbothered, how to be hot, how to be rich, how to do, like, I want to talk about the processes that you can do in your mind to get yourself into a better place. That's what people call inner work or personal development. Everyone has a different name for it. Hey, thanks for joining today's live. Leave me a like on TikTok. Don't be shy. You're touching on some real things, like the decentralization of parenting. That's not just for women. I'd argue it's even bigger for men. Yeah, I think everybody has to learn to decenter their parents after a certain point. Like, I get it. We grow up and we're becoming adults, and you just start realizing like, oh, that's why I'm like this, because my parents did this when I was this age, or because we moved over here, or because we were poor, or because they came from this country and I had to start over here and I had no friends. Or you start to kind of connect the dots of how your parents affected you, because you're starting to understand yourself better, and you kind of want someone to blame, right? And I feel like that's a phase. Like, yeah, you can put a lot of responsibility on your parents, but eventually you have to move out of that, because you have to move forward, unless you want to live your life in that victim mindset. Sometimes it's a really real, like, grieving process. Like, oh, if things were different for me, my life could have been a lot different. But what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And I feel like a lot of times parents, I can't speak for everyone, I'm just going to say something I've noticed. Sometimes parents do the best they can, and they're not aware of the ways that they're hurting their children in the future. They're just doing the best that they can at that moment based off of what they know. And there's no such thing as a perfect parent, so it's unproductive sometimes to just keep resorting back to blaming them. And I feel like sometimes it's a cop out from growing as a person, just blaming your upbringing and your parents all the time. Like, after a certain point, this is when that maturity starts to come in. Like, you have to do something about it. You have to either integrate it in your life, you have to recognize where your flaws might be because of what your story was, and start to genuinely rewrite your story, or like reinterpret the past and correct the narrative. So instead of being like, you know, my parents failed me, they're the reason that I'm so messed up, you could understand, okay, we moved here, we grew up in this environment, this caused me to experience this, which then caused me to do this. And you start to kind of process it. But when we get stuck in blaming other people, especially our parents oftentimes get the blame, we're in this place where the awareness is there, but it's not being processed. So we're kind of like just pissed like all the time, and you're like trying to blame someone, but you eventually you process it and you have to move on and create your own life, create your own life, create your own family, even create your own experience, whatever it is that you really want to do. You'll end up blaming and resenting them if you don't move past that hurt. Yeah, exactly. And who wants to live life on that mode of feeling very resentful? Like, that's not fun. And I know that sometimes people have a hard time of letting that go, but in the end, it really is hurting you the most. And honestly, like, there are things people will do that are gonna cause you to crash out and really, like, just genuinely be very mad, like some kind of betrayal or like big things that happen and stay with you and change you. Those things happen, but even those people you have to forgive. And I feel like that will probably bleed into what your spiritual beliefs are, because forgiveness is hard to do on your own. I'm sorry, like, I need some help. I don't know about you guys, but I need help. I can't, sometimes I just can't do it. I need prayer or something. Okay. Number two way that emotionally mature women protect their peace. Hey, thanks for joining today's live. If you missed the beginning, gotta rewind and watch it back. But today's topic is how emotionally mature women protect their peace. That's what we're talking about. The first way was learning not to internalize everything, learning not to take especially people's bad moods personally. Like, sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes they're just mad. They're just mad about how their life is going and it has nothing to do with you. And I used to really make that mistake a lot, thinking that it was about me. No, it wasn't. It was like they just had problems. They were upset over other things. And I was draining myself trying to pick them up, put them in a good mood. And it's like, that's when you start to learn that not everyone processes things the same way, because, personal development is a journey. But I would say that if you're not in a good mood, right? Like, if you're stressed, if you're not having a good day, or you're like pissed or whatever, like you're crabby, I feel like something I've learned to do is, if I really know I'm not feeling it that day, I won't be around people that much. Like, I'll just try to work my way up into being at least neutral and being okay before I go out and socialize. And I learned that not everybody does that. Like, some people will use other people to process their own bad mood, or to like share it with them. Like, how they say misery loves company. And it's like, not everybody has that kind of awareness yet. Hopefully one day they will, but they don't have that yet. And it's like, okay. But that took me a while to realize that, sometimes it's just them. Like, they're just putting that out because of how they feel. If you're watching this on TikTok, leave me a like on the live stream, leave me a like on YouTube. Number two way to protect your peace and become emotionally mature is that protecting your peace means managing your own internal atmosphere. That's what my channels are all about, doing that inner work, because at the end of the day, that is the only thing that you have control over. Your emotional state cannot depend on other people behaving perfectly, because you will never, ever, ever, ever experience that. People will never, ever behave perfectly. So if you're waiting for that, good luck to you. That day will never, ever come. So we got to face the facts a little bit. Some women wake up emotionally stable and lose their entire mood because of one text, one interaction, one look. Like, that's enough to throw you off. And that is not how we're going to get into this state of maintaining a sense of inner peace. Emotional maturity is being able to self-regulate instead of emotionally collapsing outward. So you know yourself the best. You know what it takes to put yourself back into a better mood. You can't rely on other people to do that for you. Sometimes they will, but it's not something that you should rely on. Okay? So here are some examples of ways that our internal atmosphere sometimes gets thrown off. Someone takes longer to reply. How many of us have crashed out because somebody took longer to reply on a message? You don't know what they're doing. You don't know why it took them that long to reply, but you start to invent. You start to invent scenarios about what could be happening. Someone seems distant. You start to think about something you might have done to upset them. I gotta go. Thanks for the wonderful advice of being peace to us all. I'll join your next live stream. Thanks for joining today's live stream. Appreciate it. Leave a like and I'll see you on the next one. Okay? Sometimes someone is in a bad mood and that throws us off. criticism or rejection can throw us off too, but emotionally mature women know how to return to themselves. If you want to know exactly how to do that, I think this is a separate topic that would be a lot to get into over here. But at the top of my head, what I would recommend on how to return to yourself is learning not to be so avoidant. Okay, a lot of us avoid thinking about things, we avoid feeling things, and that's not helping. Sometimes you have to confront what's happening, especially if it's something that you're suppressing. And this is my favorite way, but there are other ways to get the same effect. It's basically journaling, okay? Just do yourself a favor and write 1 page a day if you can start there. I try to do like 3 pages, but if you're not a writer, try to write 1 page a day. At the top of the page, write mind dump. Mind dump. What you're gonna do, you're gonna write that whole page. Don't stop writing until that page is finished. It doesn't matter if the words you're writing on that paper don't make any sense at all and you're like, I don't know what to write. I'm just writing because this bullshit's supposed to help me. Write whatever it is that comes up on that 1 page, and I promise you, something will come up, especially toward the end, because what you're trying to do when you're writing and you're trying to let go of your mind a little bit and let what is sublimating come out on paper. That's why I personally recommend 3 pages. But for the people who, thanks for liking this live on TikTok, for the people who really aren't into writing at all, start with 1 page and just see what comes up. And this is a way that you can self-reflect and see what it is that's bothering you or what's at the top of your mind. It's just a good practice for self-reflection on a daily basis. How to stop reacting to 3D circumstances. I really need advice on this. Okay. Do you mean being emotionally reactive? How to stop reacting? It depends on the situation, but sometimes just give yourself a little bit of time. Like just stop for a moment before you give it a reaction at all. Sometimes you just need a few minutes to assess what's really happening. And you have to know if you are catastrophizing. So sometimes when something happens, we automatically think of the worst possible case scenario. And oftentimes that's not what happens, but we start to get worked up in our mind as if it's already happened. And if your mind is thinking that something has already happened, it might as well have happened because your body and your mind is experiencing that, right? So you want to stop yourself from catastrophizing. That's number one. And take an accurate assessment of what's going on. So for example, if you're upset because you lost your job, what does your mind do? Oh my God, I lost my job. I'm never going to get a job again. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be broke forever. What am I going to do in the future? I'm going to have nowhere to live. Like, you start going down this rabbit hole of negative things that could possibly happen. And you're tricking your body into really thinking that that has happened. And it becomes real for you. So you want to get out of that habit. Another exercise that I used to do, and I had a cousin who went through this breakup and she was just really distraught. And we went out to lunch and I was trying to talk her down, talk her off the ledge. And we did this exercise that I was shown, which is basically like when you're having anxiety, right? Say the thing that you're worried about. So for example, if you're worried because you just went through a breakup, okay, I just went through a breakup. The next prompt would be, and then what? And you'd probably be like, and now I'm going to be alone. And then what? And then I'm going to be embarrassed because when I go to family events, I'm not going to have anybody and everyone else is going to have a partner. And then what? And then I'm going to feel like a loser. And then what? And then I'm probably going to feel less confident. I'm not going to want to go out. I'm going to need time to myself. I'm going to fall behind. And then what? Just keep saying and then what to see what your mind is tricking you into believing is going to happen. And when you hear these fears out loud, first of all, it takes away its power because sometimes anxiety is hidden. So when you start speaking it out loud, you start realizing this shit doesn't make any sense. Why am I being so irrational and fearful? You know what they say, fear is not from God. And then eventually, when you keep going down the list, you're going to have explored every possible negative outcome that could have happened. And by the end, it's like, oh, and then I'm going to go back to my regular life and things are probably going to be okay. You know, like sometimes you just have to get it out and your mind plays tricks on you by keeping it hidden. Thanks for joining today's live. We're talking about how to become emotionally mature, keep a state of internal peace. If you like this live stream, leave me a like. Don't be shy. Let me know if that made sense, by the way. Yes, anyone says anything mean, I get upset in real life. Okay, what I'll say about that, if someone's saying something that bothers you, so I would need an example of something that somebody says that's mean. But sometimes when people say something and it really bothers us to that level, it's because there's a part of us that thinks that it's true. So you're gonna have to be honest with yourself, and if you feel like part of that is true, you're going to have to work through that and basically rewire that belief. So, for example, if somebody calls you fat, right, now that we are in this trend of skinny talk or whatever, if somebody calls you fat, it's not really going to bother you on a deep level unless you personally feel like you are fat, like you've let go of your health, like you could be doing better. And that's something that you need to address, because if you didn't really feel that way already, their comment wouldn't have landed in that way. You know what I mean? So sometimes you have to revisit that and then work on whatever it is that they triggered inside of you. And that's what the inner work is. A lot of people don't get to that point. They just push it right back to you. A lot of people don't even get there. Okay. I keep surrendering my fears to God, but unable to stop worrying. Worrying is such a stronghold. Anxiety is such a stronghold. Don't stop surrendering it. But really, once you surrender it, you really have to let it go. And if you really do believe in God, you have to believe that God is going to handle it. And God can handle anything. God is a lot more capable than we are as a human being. Okay? All right. Yes, makes a lot of sense. I was reading about it. Some church fathers called it watchfulness or nepsis. What's that? Oh, saying things out loud, express them. It takes away their power. Exactly. Amen. Your words have power, guys. Your words